All right. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Cherry Cunningham, and I'm going to be your moderator for this session. I'm here to support both you and the presenter. So if you have any questions or need help with the Zoom interface, you can use the chat icon at the bottom of your screen, find my name, or you can just message to everybody. I will do my best to help you resolve your concern. And please note that this session is being recorded. With that being said, the title of this session is Intro to Drive and Docs, and here is your presenter from Palm Springs Unified School District, Bhavini Patel.
Hi everyone, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. All right. So this is Intro to Drive and Docs. I'm going to be using Pear Deck. Two options for you. If you're comfortable with using Pear Deck and it makes the presentation a little bit more interactive, you can join that way. Or if you don't want to, and I do suggest if you do use Pear Deck, have a separate window open, or you can follow along on a cell phone or something similar. And so this way, Pear Deck allows us to interact. So you can give me kind of feedback if how you feel confident about Google Drive or Docs or anything like that. And again, since we're all getting ready for basically remote teaching, I figured might as well try out and display a tool I would use in the classroom with my kids. So if you haven't used Pear Deck, it's great. And so what we're going to do is you want to make sure to mute yourself, and then you can ask questions in the chat. I will do a Q&A at the end, or you can type in the chat. If you're going to follow along within Pear Deck itself, you're going to go to joinpd.com and I'll display the code to join. And if you prefer to not do that on a different device and you just kind of want to watch my screen and get the slide deck, it's the tinyurl.com/y4HMJS4Z, and it is case sensitive. So again, two options for you today. If you want to experience on the student end of how you can use Pear Deck and add interactivity into presentations and lessons you give, you can join and follow along with joinpd.com with me. Or if you want just a slide deck and to be able to just watch me do the steps, then you can go to this tiny URL. And let me go ahead and show you the code. So again, if you want to follow along on a different window or a tab, or like I said, I even hold up my cell phone and I will type the code in and follow along here, just so I can see what the types of questions and types of activities you can do with Pear Deck. But maybe on my main laptop or computer, I want to follow along with what I'm doing. So that the choice is yours. So to joinpd.com, and it works on all browsers and devices. If I'm a teacher and I'm doing this with my students, this might be a synchronous option that when I'm teaching my students, if we're doing distance learning, I want to kind of put the lesson through Pear Deck and just use a Google add-on. And then right here, it shows 13 students connected. And so I'll give it a few more minutes before I start. That way, everyone that's just getting in, if you want to jot down the code, and maybe if you are like, I'm going to follow along, but maybe later you want to see and join, then you're more than welcome to do that if you want to write that down. Or, as I said, if you want to follow along with the slide deck just by itself and watch me and have the slide deck, then you can go to this website right here, or tinyurl.com. I see people are still connecting, so we'll give it a few more seconds. And today will be a hands-on intro to Drive, so you'll see me going and opening up and going through and showing you how to create folders. And again, please feel free to open up another tab and follow along the steps with me. And towards the end, I do have some challenges for Docs and Drives if you just kind of want to get more practice in using those. Okay, looks like we're still getting a few people. And I'm going to apologize and bear with me. We're going to see the power of Pear Deck to see how many people it can hold, because typically I've done it in the classroom with about 35 students or so, and it works seamlessly, but it looks like we have about 129 participants. So let's see how well this holds up. So again, if it does lag and we do have issues, we're all teachers. And so we always got a plan B. So then we'll just go through and close Pear Deck down if it doesn't work and go through Docs. But I did want to display a way of using slides and presentations that you do with your kiddos of how you can use an interactive tool like Pear Deck for synchronous and asynchronous if you have the premium version. All right, so yes.
I'm sorry, we have a couple questions rolling in about Pear Deck. One is, do we mute on Pear Deck as well? And the other one is, do you want us to answer the questions in Pear Deck?
Yeah, so you can mute while you're in the Zoom meeting itself. With the Pear Deck, it's just going to be going through the slides and there'll be questions in there. I was hoping that you would answer the questions because I have the teacher dashboard that I can show you on the teacher side of when kids respond, what is it going to look like for you? So if you want to, but again, I want to do everyone's comfort level. If you're kind of like, hey, I just want to sit back and watch and learn, that's okay too. And again, right before I get started, I'm going to say quickly, go ahead and take a note of the code and I'm going to start the class. And essentially what I'll do is it'll load the slides for you. And as a teacher, I can control when we move on to the next slide. All right, so TWH RX, I'm going to go ahead and start. So essentially your screen should look like the slide deck itself. And so we're going to mute ourselves just as we're in the Zoom. You joined and you should have a question where it says, what are you hoping to gain from this session? And then this is an interactive part where the students, you for today's session, would go ahead and write your responses in. We'll wait for a few. And again, this is the intro to Drive-In Docs, and we are going to be focusing on that. Again, just wanted to show you a tool to help us as we're all preparing for remote learning of another tool that you can use. I'm going to move my toolbar to the side. All right, so if I wanted to, let's say for as a teacher, you can see on my screen, 31 out of 53 responses. And so if I go to show responses, I can scroll through as a teacher. This is your teacher dashboard. And it says, I want a better understanding of how to use Google Drive and Docs, more practical applications, confidence in utilizing organization skills, things like that, right? So again, just little breaks in between to show of how you can interact with students. So I'm going to go ahead and hide, and so we can continue, and I can control the slides from here. So today will be an intro on Drive and Docs. I am Bhavini Patel. I'm an instructional technology TOSA for Palm Springs Unified. Here is my email. It's bpatel@81983@gmail. Please feel free to reach out with any questions or any resources that you need for this. I'd be more than happy to help. I am a certified Google trainer, so I drink the Kool-Aid of Google. So I'm really excited to be here to kind of introduce you of how to get started. All right, today's objectives, we're going to go over Google Drive of how to access it, how to upload folders. Then we'll go over some organizational tips. And again, Google Drive, it's close to everyone's comfort, but I would share some tips that I keep in mind, and how to share files with Google Drive. Then we'll move into Google Docs, and we'll go over the basics of creating docs, explore some tools that Google Docs happen to have that I think are a little bit more collaborative and kind of my wins for using Google Docs over Microsoft Word. And then again, going about sharing and collaborating of how do we take docs and share it with others and the different types of access. And I'll leave you with additional tools, lots of links and resources and templates for you to start with. All right, so again, how much do you know about Google Drive already? So just to get a hint of, is it, you should have a multiple choice question that pops up. And I can see right here, and you can see on my screen, we have about 20 4 people or so that are responding. And so again, as I'm teaching a lesson and I wanted to kind of check and gauge of what my students' prior knowledge is, this is maybe something I can add in there. And let's go ahead and show responses. So on this side, you can see that, okay, most of the people that are participating in the interactive part, they've tried it out at least. So maybe that there is some experience with it. Okay, so I'm gonna hide. Okay, so for Google Drive, we're gonna go over accessing Google Drive. There's multiple ways to do it. I'm gonna show you examples of how to upload files and folders from your current computer. And then we'll go over how we can organize and share those. So a lot of the things that we'll go over will be a very much hands-on demo. So I'll be opening up another tab. And as I said before, you can follow along with me or you can watch. If you are signed into your Chrome, you can open up a tab and just go and type out drive.google.com, which opens it. Or if you're signed in like me, and you can see that my profile is on here for my district account and my Google apps are right here. So the quickest way for me is because I'm a Chrome user and I'm always signed in, I'll go through and I'll click on the waffle and then you can see that you have Google Drive right there. So I can go ahead and it opens that way. And so we have our Google Drive interface right here. So again, 2 ways. I could have also just typed in drive.google.com. And because I'm signed in, it loads it automatically. If you're not, it'll ask you to sign in with your account. So depending on if you're using your district account or your personal account, I'm going to close one of these. So this is our basic interface for Google Drive itself. So I kind of try to explain Google Drive as like the house. This is where everything is held. So if there's a certain document that's a Google Doc or a certain slide presentation, it's all hosted in here. So I think of this as the house itself. And so if I was going to, and I'm just going to go over briefly, this is your search area. You can type in, and we'll go through these in detail in a bit, but I can search for my drive. This right here, this is my favorite. This is your kind of advanced. And so when I go through and I search, I can look for any type of document, whether it's a PDF, a photo, an audio file, video, anything like that. I can also look by the owner because sometimes my principal sent me something, but I'm not really sure what it was. Then I can go through and I can put in a specific person and I can type in my principal's email address and it'll show me files. And it's like, oh, you know what? It was actually a Word document he sent. Then I can help look further and I can type in document and then I can type in a name. And again, because I'm using my district account, this will populate with PSUSD, right? And then I can search for documents that E. Rivera at PSUSD searched for me. So again, huge, once you become an avid Google user and all of your files are in Google Drive, the search is my favorite. And just a tip of like, I will organize, and if you look through, you can see I have tons of folders. I even go through and I go through all those steps, but sometimes this right here, the magnifying glass, is my favorite. The search in Drive is what I'll go through and use the most. Ooh. Just checking in, are you guys still able to see my screen? Okay. I hope you guys can still see and hear me. I'm working from the district office, but I'm a little concerned because it says the Wi-Fi is unstable. So Sherry, if I go out or whatnot, please unmute and just let me know.
Yes, your voice went out for just a second, but your screen was always visible.
Okay, thank you. Okay, after that, we have our support, we have our settings. Again, I have my Google Apps. Here's my second favorite thing, and this is a personal preference, is the view that you want in your Google Drive. So again, you can see right now, all of my folders are at the top. And then when I get to the actual files, and they are alphabetical, when I get all the way to the bottom, and oh man, I got a crazy Google Drive, guys. Then those come up. So this is list view, okay? So that's a preference. If you don't like that, I can just go ahead and click on it. And this becomes a view that has the icons on it. So sometimes, here's when I use this one. Let's say I'm looking for a file and I'm not sure what it's called, but I can kind of picture it and see it. Then I'll always switch over and I'll go to this way. So that way it gives me little icons of what the actual document is. So I don't have to click in it to see it. I can just see the interface of it. Oh, okay, I was looking for this. Here's the picture that I wanted. And then I can click on it and then it opens up that as well. And again, because it looks like, unfortunately, my internet is a little laggy, I'll go on. But then I can say, okay, this is what I want. So your preference in terms of which style you like. So for me, as a default, I like things just linear, but I do switch back and forth depending on my need of, oh, you know what? I don't know what it's called. I don't know who gave it to me. I'm not sure of what type of document is, but I can picture it and then I'll go through that way. And so you have your sections on the left. Here is where we upload. So we'll go to the plus sign and new. And this is where you can upload folders. You can create a new folder, sorry. Upload a file you already have or upload full folders. So I used to use this a lot when we first switched over. So we we're a Microsoft Teams district, but mostly everyone just used Microsoft Docs and PowerPoint and things like that. And then when we switched to Google and became a Google Apps district, I realized, oh man, there's so many things I need to convert. I don't want to recreate everything. So if I go through, I can go to File, Upload. And then now I'm on my desktop. And so let's say I have this Word document. I can click on it. And I can click open, and then you'll see at the bottom it's starting to upload. And so then it'll upload the Word file. So let's say I click on it just to show you. And it'll go through and load. But if you notice on my screen, let's say here's a Word document. Word documents aren't super friendly to share in terms of editing. So maybe I want feedback on this, but I don't want to have somebody else retype and add stuff. I can go to Open With, and then you select Google Docs. So now essentially what this is doing is it's converting the Microsoft Word file into a Google Doc. Heads up, not everything converts perfectly, so you might need to readjust fonts, margins, things like that. But now this makes it super easy to collaborate on because now it's a Word file. And so then I can go ahead and share that with someone in my district, someone outside my district, depending on your settings. And they can edit and things on here too. So I no longer have to create a version in Microsoft, email it out, then they open it and they're like, oh, let's make some changes. They change it, save it, download it, email it back to you, right? So kind of eliminates that back and forth and it's instant. So that's one way. And the cool thing with that is that works with your other files as well. So for example, again, I'm going to go back to new. I'm going to go to File. And this time, I'm going to take a PowerPoint I might have, right? And so we have compatibility of Microsoft Word to Google Docs, PowerPoint to Google Slides. And if you have Excel spreadsheets, you could convert them to Google spreadsheets and share them as well. So same concept, you can see that this is a PowerPoint, but let's say again, I wanted to share and collaborate. I can go to that Open With and click Google Slides. And now essentially it's taking my PowerPoint and automatically converting it into Google Slides format. Same thing, always keep in mind sometimes things might not transition perfectly. You might have to play around and fix images or fix fonts or fix where things are labeled. But at least for me, I feel it's better than having to start brand new from scratch, right? And again, the same thing happens with spreadsheets as well. And so in here, that's how we upload. You can do a full folder itself. So if I had a folder on my desktop, I can go through and click on it and click upload, and it'll not only upload the things that are inside, but then you always have the option to open and convert them. Speaking of conversion, it is a little bit later, but just to show you, let's say I want all of this to happen automatically. There's the feature in settings. I click on the settings cogs wheel, click on settings. Here's the key right here, convert uploads. If you wanted to automatically convert everything, then you can check that box. So that means anytime I go to file upload and I upload a Microsoft Word file, it'll convert it into Google Docs. And it says Google Docs editor, but keep in mind that means if I convert PowerPoint, it'll convert it to Google Slides. If I do Excel, it'll convert it to Google Sheets. If I do Microsoft Word, then I'll do it to Google Docs. So if that's something that you want to do, you can keep that checked or unchecked. Just make sure you click done. And since we're in here, I'll just go over it. Here's some other options. You can change the language offline. This one is great if you're working on your device. So essentially, you can create, open, and edit your recent docs, sheets, and slides on this device while offline. So I kind of think of an example of, like, let's say I'm working on a Google Slides presentation and I lose Wi-Fi. I mean, man, I lose Wi-Fi sometimes at my own district. So if I'm working on that, what happens is it'll save on there locally, and then when I hit the internet again, it automatically uploads it. So let's say me and a coworker are working on a Google Slides and I'm typing my section, but I drop the Wi-Fi and I don't have it. Well, that person that's working on me, my coworker, he or she won't be able to see it. But once my computer hits Wi-Fi and I go back home, then all of that automatically uploads. And then for my coworker, they'll automatically see it. So, and again, obviously it says right here, it's not recommended for shared computers. So you can choose this for your personal laptop. And then you have different types of views. I like to keep this on as well. Make relevant files handy when you need them in quick access. So let's go ahead and click done. Thanks for your patience as my things are running a little slow. Quick access is up here. So you can see that these are documents that I've touched recently or I have worked on. So if you want that, then you can turn that on in your settings. And if you're like, no, I don't need that, you can keep that off, and then it'll just show your Google Drive folders and things like that. So with Google Drive, there's a lot of flexibility in terms of what you like and what you prefer itself. My new button right here, this is kind of going to be your favorite in terms of, like, this is not only where you create new files and folders, this is where you'll access docs, sheets, slides. And if I click to more, because most people have a hard time finding where the Google Forms or Google Drawing, they're always hiding in more. Google Sites, and then these are other extra ones that you can add in terms of other apps you want to add to your Google Drive account. But mostly, if we're all starting off, I live in Drive, Docs, Sheets, and Slides. So this is where you would create blank ones. And so, because I feel like I've talked nonstop, I showed you where we can create the files, where we can upload them. Again, just a very brief overview of the Drive itself. And so, how do you feel about uploading your current files and folders you have in your Drive? If you're participating of, yeah, I think I got it, or false, you know, I might need a little bit more practice. But again, it's basically you go to your Google Drive and you click on uploading a file or a folder, and it'll convert. So again, make sure in your settings, if you want it to automatically convert, you turn that on. Otherwise, you can always manually, like you saw how anytime I open up the file, there's always the open with option. So
Bhavini, while they're finishing that little questionnaire there and we're about halfway through, you did have a question from someone that asked, how do you create a folder on your Google files? And then also too, if every email you ever get in Google is saved on there.
emails don't save in your drive, if I'm understanding the question correctly.
I think it was when you were referring to if looking for somebody that had sent you something, does everyone send to, so if somebody does send you a document, is every single one saved in your drive?
Yeah, if they've manually added your email address and it's saved to you, yes, it will show up that way. If you're looking for other things that are shared, you can see that on this left side right here, there's a shared with me. And you can see that these are all, this is my crazy section. I kind of avoid this because it stresses me out because there's no way to organize shared with me. So this would be anything that is shared. In terms of, it could be specific people, it could be organizations. You can see like for this one is Palm Springs Unified School District. This means that this was shared with everybody in our district, right? So sometimes in the beginning, I'd be like, who's this person? Why are they sharing this with me? It's because they've set it to anybody in the district can find it. This is, again, for your work ones. And so these are all right here. Again, I avoid it because there's no way to organize this. And the more you start using it and people start sharing things, there'll be more and more things there, right? And so that's one way. But if you're looking for somebody that shared a document with you specifically, then you could use that search feature. Creating a folder, we click on new and we click on folder and it'll say untitled folder. Everything in Google is always untitled, so always make a habit of titling it. So I'm just gonna put, just so I know, I'm gonna put delete later. Obviously you would organize a folder and title it what you would like. And again, when I have the challenges for you to practice later on, in terms of on your own time as to get familiar, we'll have options for you to do that. And so it creates a folder automatically, and there it is, delete later. And so since we're already in here, and because I feel like I'm already halfway through, going through and organizing. So here's my favorite thing. Sometimes I color code folders. You can right click it and you can see you have all these options that show up, right? You can change the color of a folder. So if I want, okay, all of my things from my librarian, if they create lessons and they want a certain like a certain thing, then I can identify it and I could change the color of that folder, right? So color coding is another option. Adding a shortcut to the drive. This is key when you're on shared folders and they're going to be constant, where your team or your principal is going to be constantly updating things. I don't want it in my shared drive. I want to make a shortcut and add it to my drive itself. You can star it. Think of star as your favorites. So if there's things that I use often, I star them. And you can see on the left side of my screen, there's this section where things are starred. So then I don't have to look through the mess of all of the things in Google Drive. I can star my frequently used items. So you have all of these options right here. Going through, and let's go through sharing. So if I click on share, this is the folder I want to share. Here are your options with sharing. So because in my district, we're restricted automatically, our default is for Palm Springs, right? So I can click on that. And now this is set to this folder. Anyone in Palm Springs can view this folder. And your options, always look for the little triangles. So then if I click on that triangle, then I can make it restricted, which means it's only mine and nobody can see it. Anyone in Palm Springs or anyone with a link. That means essentially, if I'm sharing this with people beyond, like for example, the presentation today is anyone with a link. And then here's your second option for sharing. What do you want them to do with it? Do you want them to have access just to view it? Okay, so that's the default. If I want them to be editors, that means I want your contribution, I want you to be able to collaborate, they can add files into that folder, they can edit files, they can help organize and color code. So your options with what kind of access do you want? So maybe if I'm sharing with my team, my grade level, then I would add everybody on my team as the editor, because as we're working on different things, we can kind of collaborate and house everything together. Okay, so you have those two options. Then if you click, so I can click on done. And so then that one could be shared with who I put it in. And I'm going to go back to show you a second way. Thank you for your patience. So here is where, if I was going to share it manually with my team, then I can share it and I can leave a message of like, hey, this is for our meeting next Tuesday, right? Kind of just give a little reference point of what you're going to be sharing for. And then I can press send. Same thing, I have my little triangle, so always look for that triangle for options. And do I want Eduardo to be able to just view the folder, or do I want him to be able to add things on there, right? And so I can send it to him that way. And so again, if you're going to send it to people, you can always pick the level of sharing you want with folders. And then when I go through, obviously my folder I just created, it's blank. This is where I can go through and I can create a Google Doc. And now instead of going to the doc and individually sharing it, this folder is shared and you can see the share icon. So in Google, when you see the two people together, that means that this folder is shared. So anything I put in here, that person will be able to see. And it gives me a reminder that the created item will have the same sharing permissions as a selected folder. So if I gave viewing rights for the folder, that means all the documents in here will only have viewing rights. If I gave anybody can edit, then all the documents I put in here, anybody can edit. So keep that in mind, that whatever settings you have for the folder, they run all the way down to the actual permissions for each item as well. Any questions?
Bhavini, we've had a couple come in. First one was William. He did ask how much space on the drive are we allotted?
So it depends on the district you have. So if you're a Google district like ours is, we have unlimited. But I know that if you have a personal Google account, there is limited storage. So it depends on if you have district accounts, you'll have unlimited storage with your Google Drive and Google Docs, but there is a limit to a personal account. Unfortunately, I don't know the limit of this, like the storage on a personal account.
Okay.
Sorry.
The next question comes from Matt. If I wanted to share a blank progress report with 3 teachers and I want them each to send back their own response, how can I do that without them all typing on the same document? I did reply that he can do a force copy or he can limit cells to give only certain people access. Would you be able to model that for him?
So going through and let's see. So if I had this document and you want them to be, he wants them to be able to just have a copy of it, correct? And not be able to change the main template?
Yeah, so he wants them to send back their own responses without them all typing on the same document.
Okay, so then I would actually do the thing that we showed at the beginning too, of where you can copy the link, open the email and share it to them, and then you have to just tell them, they get viewing, and all you have to do when they open it up and they can't do anything with it, they can go to File, make a copy, and then it'll make it theirs, and I would tell them to then, and then I would have them add their name and copy, and obviously change the name of what it would be. It'd be Bhavini's copy of progress report or whatnot, and then you'll get a copy of their edited version without them changing your template. So I do go through and have them do it that way, or if you copy the URL at the top, and you can change the word edit to copy, and send that, and then it'll automatically make a copy for them. So that's a little hack as well. So you go to the URL for the document itself, and again, it said edit, and you can go through and delete the words and just type in copy and send this whole URL to them, and then it'll automatically force a copy. So then they can skip out on the step where they go to file, make a copy. So that would be an automatic way to do it.
Thank you. And then Sarah has a question about how would you create a shared drive for your grade level team to use? Then within that shared drive, have shared folders.
So in Google Drive, you have a shared drive itself, depending on, again, if you have access to creating them or not. So it depends. In terms of for mine, these are the shared drives I have that I've been added to and I have part of. So it will depend on your district with what the settings are. So on this shared drive, which is a Tectosa, we can see that there's 7 people on it and we can manage members. And so I go here and you can see your participants and you can add more. Then if you click on, again, the triangle is the best in Google Drive. There's manager, and then there's different attributes right here. So it tells you what each person can do. So if I want somebody on my shared drive, they'll automatically get things I create in there. They can just view it. A commenter. Obviously, if it's your team, maybe you want certain people to have to be contributors, content managers, where you can see the difference between they can edit and add and move and delete files, or they can just add and delete, or a manager where I can change these settings, whereas other people won't be able to. So this would be a good way if your district has that set up and open. I know we had barely opened it, so not everyone in our district uses shared drives yet, but I would say if your district has that open, then that's the best way with your team. And that's automatically done, so then I don't have to constantly click and share and everything, right? So all these folders we have are automatically shared with the 7 people in the drive. Does that answer your question? And that's in here itself. So then it's in your shared drives, and then you click on which group. And once that opens up, then I can go ahead and click on new and then do the same aspects of opening up a folder, of opening a Google Doc, slides, anything like that. And then again, everyone has access automatically that's in this group to all these folders. And the level they have is, like I said, it's dependent on what level of access you've given to each contributor.
Thank you, Bhavini. We have Valerie next. She asked, if you share a folder and update it later, does it update automatically or do you need to share again?
No, that's the best part with Google. It updates. So as long as that folder is shared and they have access to it, any document you update in there, it automatically updates. Any new item you add, it automatically updates. That's the best part is I love that of it automatically updates everything in that folder. So if a coworker goes in 10 minutes later and looks at it, that document you have or that folder you have will automatically update in live time.
Perfect. And then finally, Susan would like to know, would you use team drives rather than shared folders?
So do you mean shared drives? If it's like Microsoft Teams, then unfortunately I don't have experience with that, so I wouldn't be able to speak on it. But if it's between just sharing a folder or a shared drive, I would do shared drives for people that I'm going to be working with consistently. So my technology TOSA team, we use our shared drive a lot because we're constantly creating things. And then for teachers or other personnel that I won't constantly be doing, then I would create a folder for a specific task or a project we're working on and share that folder. A benefit to shared drive also is, let's say I create stuff in a shared drive and I leave the district, everyone else that's in the shared drive, they still have access to it, right? So I always feel that's a benefit of sometimes when teachers leave and you just have a shared folder, once their Google account is deactivated, it'll become deactivated. So I do tell teachers, anytime anybody shares something with you and you love it, file, make a copy. Like always copy it, because as soon as that person deletes it or is no longer has an active Google account, you lose access. So the difference between making a copy and adding it to your drive, if I'm working on a document with a principal and he's constantly updating it, then I don't want to make a file copy, because think of that as a timestamp. If I make a copy of it, then it copies it, you know, let's say Tuesday at 7:02. And then my principal added something Wednesday morning. Well, I no longer have access. That doesn't update because I've kind of made a copy at Tuesday. And so the new updates don't happen. So that's a difference between when you want to add something to your drive, because that's constantly being updated. And then when I want to go ahead, so I can add it to my drive, or I can go ahead and make a copy of it, right? So the difference between two, make a copy. If it's done, it's permanent, you want it, regardless if that person leaves or not. Add it to your shortcut when it's something that's constantly being updated, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Bhavini. All right, looks like that is all of the questions so far. Or actually, we just got a question from Susan A. Wouldn't you need to email yourself a document to your personal Gmail to keep something from a district drive in case you leave?
Yes, and I do that very frequently. I am cautious about certain ones because I also know that my personal drive has limited storage. But if I'm going to, then I do that. There is also something called Google Takeout, which can essentially, it's a program through Google that you can do if you're leaving the district, and it'll take all of your content and push it to your personal. But then again, keep in mind, it depends how heavy loaded. Like, I feel like I'm going to have to pay to upgrade my personal Google account to hold all of this. But that's something I definitely do with things, is I always, if I'm working on it and I know this is gold, man, I'm going to use this forever, I definitely share it to my personal. So I always have it in case something happens, you know, to my district account or job or position. Okay, and we went over color coding and moving, starring, renaming. So again, in your Google Drive, always right click on things, and then all these options happen right here. So the moving is if I want to move this from one folder to another, then you can click on move to, right? And how you can star it, rename it. Always right click on a file or a folder and all your options show up. Here's a sample naming structure. If I was in the classroom, I would kind of create, because again, guys, I'm going to be very honest, it gets pretty hectic. The more of a Google Drive user you become, it gets super hectic. Think of how you want to name your folders. Essentially, I'm thinking of in content area, maybe I want to title the content area, what unit, what week one, maybe, and then I'll put and upload Google Docs and Drive and slides that go with week one. Other things of, if you want Unit 1, Lesson 1 vocab, Unit 1, Lesson 1 grammar or comprehension, things like that. So think of a naming structure you want to keep for your folders, because again, as you do create more so for your classrooms, it's going to get really crowded, and you can see how many folders I have in there. And again, once you become an avid user, your search is going to be your favorite, because I've tried all this and then I forget where things are. But, you know, it's at least every year then I can go back to, oh, what did I do last year? You know, and as teachers, we know we never use the same thing again. But it's nice to be like, okay, here's all my content I have for Unit 1, Week 1 for our Wonders curriculum, or what we use for ELA. So these are just suggestions if you're thinking of how should I organize all my things. In terms of teaching wise, you can go through and create structures and folders that are going to be helpful for you to reference later. And again, quick little snaps for you to look at later. Unfortunately, I'm going to go through some because, and we went over sharing, converting, remember, was in your settings. The offline access was in your settings. So again, that cogwheel right here for Google always is settings, and then you can go in, and this is where you can see of where your storage detail is. You can even look at items that are taking up storage. And so when we talked about converting, if you would like that, the quick access, the offline, turning that on, that's all located in settings. All right. All right, we'll do like about 5 seconds. How do you feel about Google Drive? Because I do want to make sure I get to Docs as well. And oh man, there's not enough time. But we're going to go through, and I do want to show you, and I do have templates for you to use as well. So let's look at show responses. I'm a little confused. Keep going. I understand. It looks like we're mostly in between here. And again, for those that are confused, it takes a lot, and I know it's a lot that happens, especially when it's a new structure you're getting used to. Just be patient, forgive yourself, and find what works for you. So honestly, there is no perfect way to keep everything organized, just like how we all are individual. It depends on your preferences. Sometimes, like in the beginning, I was great, and I would color code of like, okay, all my things related to this project are green, and all my things related to project B are yellow. And then, then I stopped using it, and then I just went to search. So find what works for you. Okay, accessing Google Docs. We're back in our Drive, and same spot, new, and I click on Google Docs. Anytime you open something in Google Drive, it always says Untitled, and so you want to go ahead and always title your document. The cool thing with Google Docs is you never have to press save. It automatically saves every few seconds, which is really cool. Going through, you can see that lots of the same copied from Microsoft Word in terms of the toolbar itself, right? Like if I wanted to go through and pick headings or titles, the type of font I want to use, the number, the bold, all of that is pretty similar to what we already know with Google Docs. I wanted to, again, spend time on specific things that I think are really cool that we might not have in Microsoft Word. And because of the sake of time, one cool tool I do want to show you is the Explore tool. And you can see that at the bottom right here, it has Explore, or you can access it by going to Tools. And I can go to Explore. And it opens up a window, and man, I wish I had this when I was in college, of like, you can search and research right within the doc. So if I'm going through and I'm going to write a sample sentence, I like to eat apples. And let's say I want more things related to that. And this is new. It says create smarter docs. You can find related images, things like that. So if I click on here, and if I want to search something, I can click on apples. And I have three options: websites, images, or I can look in my Drive. So if I can go through and I scroll down, these are all websites, right, that are related to it. Like, for example, Apple's 101 Nutrition, right? So if I click on that, it takes me directly to the article itself, right? So if I was doing research, if I wanted to look for an image for Apple, I have it, and you can see that there's a little plus sign. You can insert the image or click it, drag it, and drop it onto the document. And obviously, it's a little big. So I'm going to click on the image, and I'm going to resize it. Okay. The cool thing, which I love about this, is you can see that it automatically has a citation, right? So once I click on it, you can see where it was located. So, and it says right here, comments from Wikipedia, right? And so I feel like that's a fantastic feature, right? We talk about working with kids and teaching them digital citizenship and citing their sources and all of those things. It's all right here. So any image I put in, it'll automatically, I have to just click on it, and it'll give the link, and it'll take me, and I can click on it, and it'll take me directly to the source. So I feel like that's fantastic. Let's say I was going to go to the web, okay? And I'm going to scroll down. I have these three dots. Look at this function. Change the citation format. Man, I spent so much time intimately with my APA book in college learning how to do proper citations. You can select the type of citation you want. And then as I'm writing, let's say I want, this is the article I referenced, I can click on the quotation mark, cite as a footnote. I click on it, and then there's that citation, and bam, at the bottom, it's formatted in this. Again, you can choose your MLA, APA, Chicago. It cites it automatically. So I feel like this was a major upgrade for me from Microsoft Word to switching over to Google Docs. I was like, oh, you can do your research right within the doc? That's fantastic. And again, a really great feature. I do have in the presentation, let's see, there is a template. And accessing it, I did show that you can, and I always go for my Google Drive, but you can always go, and they released this a couple of years ago, where you can just type in docs.new. Again, if you're signed into your Chrome, and I can just type in docs.new, and it opens a blank one for me to work in. And I do use it, but not always, because sometimes when I'm creating them in folders. So then I always prefer to go back to my Google Drive and create from there instead of just in here, because then it'll be in my Google Drive, but it won't be in a specific spot that I want. And I wanted to show you a template. Sorry, for sake of time, I'm gonna go through.
Bhavini, I'm just going to interrupt you real quick. Just so you guys know, we'll keep this room open. I still have a couple questions waiting. If you guys are leaving to go to the lunch session, the Building Equity Partners and Capturing Student Voices, that room is open. But I just wanted to let you know that we're just going to leave this room open. Let's finish those questions. And then if you are going to the lunch session, this will be recorded, so you'll be able to catch the end of these questions, okay? All right, continue, Bhavini. I'm so sorry.
No problem. Here's some additional tools, and these are live links for how to use the Explorer tool, 5 ways you can use it. Here's the Explorer tool practice. Again, it's linked in there, so you can use it anytime. This is maybe an easy way I would introduce using the Explorer tool to my kids. If you wanted to do it, it is live, so you can edit. And I would have them do something very simple to start. Type in your favorite food, and then drag and drop the image for the Explore tool, right? So for example, I would maybe write in pizza, and then again, I would click on the Explore tool. And look at that, because I wrote pizza, it already, it's just AI, it already predicted some images I could use. One of them is correct, so I'm gonna put that in. And that's a simple activity, right? All I did was create a doc with a table, and then this is something I could have my kids do. And if you're in the doc, how do I create a table? Well, you can go to insert, you can insert images, and you can see that you have options to upload them from your computer. You can search the web. If you have them in your drive, you can search from there as well. I want to go to table, and let's say I wanted that 2 columns, and then if I have, if I want a couple, then I can put that in there and do that. And then I would use something like Google Classroom to push this out to my students, right? So Explore tool was one of the options that I really like. And again, it's very similar to Microsoft Word. I just wanted to show options that, kind of step up Google Docs. The second piece is the collaboration piece. In terms of this little icon right here, add comment, this is huge in terms of if I'm collaborating with other teachers, if I'm collaborating with my kids. When I used to push out assignments through Google Classroom and my kids were working on things, I don't feel comfortable going in and changing anybody's work. So what I'll do is I'll click on this section and I'll click on the comment, and it adds a comment right here. And if I'm giving any kind of feedback of like, then I could write it here. Do you think we should use, another word or whatnot? And then you can leave a comment. So that way, when my students go in, for example, if I highlighted an area, I'd be like, oh, Johnny, is there a different example you can use, or could you be more descriptive? I can kind of have that communication and collaboration within the document without having to be live. So I feel like right now for remote learning, this is a great option of your kids are going to be working on things from home. And if you're creating Google Documents and you're using Google Classroom, you have access to see everything. then you can go through and leave comments and have a conversation on the side instead of going through and having to change stuff, right? Because I always feel like we have to respect everyone, and if it's theirs and they're looking for feedback, then you want to be able to leave comments and have a discussion. So Explore tool, comments. Another section I want to show is hyperlinks. So I know sometimes I've seen documents where if we said, and I'm just going to use my website. Actually, not even. Let's say I want my kids to go to a specific document, right? And so I'm going to share this one. And I'm going to say, change my setting. And let's say this is for people that are outside by district. I might go through, copy the link, okay? And I might go to my test and I might paste it right here and press enter. And now this is a link and I'll take the kiddos to that document. Well, that doesn't look so great, right? And I like to use keywords. Like for my kiddos, for example, I might put click here. And now I want to hyperlink this. That means I want to take this, whatever text you type, highlight it, go to insert link. I can control V and paste it. And now that's a live link. And that looks so much cleaner. So in terms of just professionalism as well, and using words like this, click here, watch this, do this for kiddos, I felt like that really helped using those keywords. And so when they click on it, it goes to that document itself. So using hyperlinks, right? So again, the concept of taking text and then highlighting it and clicking on the insert link to the place you want them to go. It's a cleaner look. And again, it gives a lot more keywords for kiddos to do. And I wanted to show you a template I have for that, the group assignment. So this is also in the presentation. So if you like it, file, make a copy, right? Here's the template I use for group assignments. So now I'm thinking of, okay, well, the kiddos aren't going to be back for a while. So how can I do this? And I think of like, okay, maybe this is something I can use as a breakout room. And I can have the kiddos put their names on here. And you can see I hyperlinked the activities. So everyone in group 1, they can click on sample activity. And it takes them to the actual activity. So here I want them to talk about what makes for exceptional learning experience for them. What are some barriers, right? So this is maybe something I might do in the beginning of the year to get to know my kids. And that means everybody in this group 1 works on this activity. Then another one, hyperdocs, if it was a plant life cycle. And here I used a lot of hyperlinks for my kiddos. And here's the overview, here's the topic. This is where they type in what they learned. Then they watch or read about roots and leaves. And then right here, what I learned. So this makes it more interactive, right? So if you wanted to use something like this, then all you have to do is hyperlink the activities. So then what I did was, and if you notice, these things will be titled group 1, right? So this is the group 1 activity. And then this one again is the group 1 plant cycle. So essentially, all I did then is for group 2, I made a copy of it and I retitled it group 2 exceptional learning. So everybody that's in group 2 has to collaborate and work on this document, right? Because I feel like it's going to truly take a lot of effort to have collaboration. So I feel with remote learning, this would be a great way. And then, as I said, now that I'm thinking of remote learning, maybe these are the kiddos that in Zoom, I use a breakout room and they're put into one room where they can discuss and work on their activities. And as a teacher, when you use Zoom, and if you're using breakout rooms, you can pop in. Then when I go to group 2, all these kiddos are working on here. So it's a live document and I gave editing rights. So obviously you want to talk about etiquette and sharing. And all I would do then is take all these assignments. For example, let me just show you live. This was group 1, right? I'm not going to recreate this. I want this to be group 3. So I'm going to go to File, make a copy, and I'm going to take off the first part, and I'm going to change it to group 3. right? So essentially, I'll just make a bunch of copies of the same thing. And so now this is creating a brand new for group 3. And then I can go to share, because now I want to hyperlink this on that same document. So my group 3 has their activities, right? And again, I'm not recreating it. I'm just making a copy and sharing. Again, I want to change it because my default is set to that. And I want it to be anyone with a link. And I want all of them to be edit. So editor. And I'm going to copy the link. Then I'm going to go back to my group assignment and hyperlink, right? So then I'm going to go right here and I'm going to click on the insert link, paste it. And obviously I don't want to say hyperlink here. Now I want it to say sample activity, or whatever you title your activity for this group, right? And so that's there. So again, that's one protocol or one way you can use these templates and have them hyperlinked and have kids collaborating. So if you do like that, it's right here in the slide deck. Please go ahead and make a copy. The sharing options are always the same all the way across, which is pretty consistent. So how we did Google Docs and the folders, same concept. I can add them manually. Right now, if I want everyone to edit that in that group, then I put anyone on the internet with this link can view, and then I would copy it and paste it. And so then those are there for you as well. And these are the challenge tasks I was mentioning earlier. If you wanted more practice, I did sections of them. And so these are things you can do, like a task for you to practice with Google Drive is you can create a new folder, create a subfolder inside of it, you know, name it, put a document inside, all of that. So any of these ideas we went over, and again, it was such a short time, and I really thank you for your patience. I put lots of sample activities for you to try. And then here are some additional resources in terms of if you need more help with the Google Drive and Docs. There's some training courses. There's little like cheat sheets that you can download as well. The help centers. If you want to use Pear Deck, there's the help center down there for Pear Deck as well, if this is a tool you think you'd be interested in. Oh, got to show you one more. I got to show you the best one, which is revision history, especially with, and these are your application ideas, and there's some examples of HyperDoc templates. Going through and seeing of like, okay, who's doing what on my doc, or especially with kiddos, looking to see, are they actually working on their documents? Are they collaborating on things? So one cool tool, I'm going to look for a document that there's quite a few contributors to. Here's an example. So here's a document that a group of us are working on for our professional development. And this is available in Google Docs and in Google Slides. You can go to File and go to Version History. Okay, it used to be called Reversion History, and you can see version history. You can see that there's multiple people on the doc right now. But this breaks down and it gives me good insight into who's been working on it, who's been contributing. So think of it with your students, right? If you gave them a group project, you can see, and it gives you timestamps of who's been working on it. And I can go through and see. And so let's say I wanted to see July 20th. I click on that. It looks at it to that version. And as I scroll, you can see people on it. Like this is crossed out. This means that this got deleted and it says Amanda Gonzalez, so I can see who it was by, right? So it color codes the sections that were added on it that day. So I could say that Amanda added this stuff, right? So everything is color coded and it matches my screen right here of when it was green or whatnot. So revision history is great. Sorry, it's called version history now. In terms of, let's say I'm working on something with my team and they added it, I didn't really like it and we decided not to go that way. Well, I can go back, oh, okay, that happened July 19th. Okay, so maybe we scratched all the stuff we worked after. then I can click on this button that says restore this version. That means all this new stuff that we added would get deleted and the document would go back to that version. So version history, again, awesome to see the history of that document, who's on it. Think about in terms of your kiddos of this is a great way. And I tell my kids that, hey guys, I'm gonna have access to see, so it shows me who's doing what, and that way you can see, and it's accountability piece. And then again, for you personally and professionally as well, you can go back in time and see. And the coolest thing, no save needed. So it's all still there. Again, we more so for collaboration, right? Google Drive, Google Docs, great for collaboration. Great for asynchronous teaching. Use the comment feature when the kiddos are working on writing, leave comments for them, things like that. You can create literacy activities. There's any of the templates I've shown, even in the collaborative. If you like any of these, like here's an example of a Google Doc that primary, but word families or at family. And so we put in images and then the students have to type out the word, right? And so here's a template that you give them the word, they insert a picture, they type the word, retype it. So if there's any template in here that you like, please go ahead and use. Please reach out with any questions you have or anything like that. And thank you for your patience. Here are more templates. Here are more awesome people to follow. Any questions?
Bhavini, we did get a couple. The first one was, sorry, let me scroll to it.
I apologize. I've been trying to rush through to be like,
Oh,
oh,
no,
we're
no.
trying.
We appreciate you. Susan A wanted to know, can you delete something that was shared to you when you're not the owner?
If it's not shared, if it's shared to you and you're not the owner, you can delete it. It just removes it for yourself. It doesn't remove it for whoever else was on it.
Okay, so then Selena asked, I have many things sent to me from my past students. Can I delete them?
In your Google Drive?
She didn't specify.
Yeah, you can delete them because if they're the owner, they'll still have it with them. The things you don't want to delete is, for example, let's say it's in a shared folder and everybody has access and you are the owner and you delete it, then it removes access for everybody.
Okay. And then Susan asked, do you know if personal Gmail has a space limitation to store files?
Not off the top of my head. I feel like the Gmail itself, probably not, but like Google Drive storage, I know that there is a limitation on personal, but I think for Gmail, I haven't run into a storage issue with Gmail and I've had it for years. So I don't think it's anything close, but I do know if it is personal Gmail that you would get an alert about like storage and stuff being full, even in Google Drive.
Okay, and then when you were working on that new document, we had somebody ask, can you completely get rid of the header?
Get rid of this one?
Yes, completely get rid of the header.
Not that I know of. I mean, there might be something in terms of like, it might be a setting in like your device itself. But no, in terms of if you send a copy of this to somebody, they won't have these options, right? Like the header won't be there for them. It's this header will be up here where it has the file edit and stuff if they can view it, but the editing will not be there when it's a view only file.
Okay, and then Valerie has a question. I believe this was on when you were explaining the Explore tool on images. That looks great, but are there any search protections for students? So if you type in a certain word, does Google know not to, especially if it's a school account, not to show up certain images?
It shouldn't, yeah, because, and your filtering system should also kick that in, but I feel like inappropriate images should not come up. I have not seen that come up. But again, I'm also thinking of Google has its own, but then when we're at the district Wi-Fi, we have our own filters, and plus we have Gaggle, which for us, Gaggle scans through all of your Google Drive and all the kids' Drive and Docs and all of that and looks for inappropriate images and words. So it 100% will depend on the type of filtering your district also uses. But I have not seen with Google inappropriate images that come up.
Perfect. And then another question we got is the benefit of hyperlink with groups allow for differentiated instruction? I'm not understanding the collaboration piece.
Oh, okay. So for the group activity,
Yes.
um, it allows, then that all that does is basically if all of my kiddos are on that document, essentially I would say the best version is to use Google Classroom. And again, I didn't focus on that because the session was just Drive and Docs. But what I would do is I would take a file and you can assign students to work on a specific thing in Google Classroom. And I would give them editing rights so they all collaborate on the same presentation, if that makes sense, or on the same document. But if it's something like this, where it was going to be on the fly, and again, if I had better time management, I had given everyone editing rights. So people whose accounts and stuff I don't have ahead of time, they can all work on it together. But I would say in Google Classroom, distribute documents like this or Google Slides and have them collaborate and create it and work together. And then again, they can, instead of just changing things, they can also go ahead and talk to each other and collaborate with the comment feature and be like, you know, somebody wrote something, hey, do you think this is a good idea or whatnot? So I would still say use Google Classroom with distributing and collecting work from students.
Perfect. All right, well, that's all the questions we have. Oh, actually, nope, Ryan's or just brought in something. How do you assign individual groups to an individual document? It seems like that would take a while.
That's so yeah. So this I wouldn't. I would use Google Classroom, and you can create assignments in Google Classroom, and you can select the students that way. So for distributing content like Google Docs or slides and things like that, 100%, I wouldn't sit and type out my students' names. Google Classroom.
Perfect. All right, Bhavini. Well, that looks like all of the questions we've had so far. So again, I want to thank you so much for your expertise in sharing this. Everyone, please go ahead and make sure you hit that feedback survey for Bhavini. We would love to bring her back. And then just go ahead and you'll get all of the links, like I said, in an email later, and it is on Sked. So with that, I thank you so much for your guys' time.
Thank you for your time and thank you for your patience with my lag. But please tweet at me with anything that you need or any questions you have or resources, or please feel free to email me. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.